and welcome to this episode of From Dirt We Grow. I'm your host, Stephanie Kendall. Thank you so much for being here today. And as your host, I want to ask you to give me some feedback. I want to hear from you guys. I want to know how you think it's going and what you want to, if there's more of something that you want to hear, or if there's something that we haven't covered that you'd like to talk about, or how you feel about what's been said so far in the show. Right about now, hit me with the like and the subscribe. I would very much appreciate it. Getting into today's content, a couple weeks ago, I highlighted the importance and benefits of change, changing routines, viewing changes made as a positive rather than a negative, changing one's mind or beliefs. And for today's show, I thought it would be a good idea to expand on some of those beliefs, why they're there, expose some truths behind them, and see where it takes us. Actually, I have one very specific, vitally important, now more than ever, topic in mind to dissect and examine and just get all up in there with it. The power of the people united. We are much weaker divided. It's thrown out quite often lately that those with power make sure they keep that power from us through division and distraction tactics. So let's just really dig into that. First, we're going to look at how it's done. It's done with two very simple yet effective words: fear and hate. Two very powerful emotions. So powerful, they're used as weapons against us to distract, to divide, to divert attention. It's manipulation, plain and simple, and there are many layers. The division is created by portraying certain groups or individuals as threats or enemies, diverting attention from our shared problems and solutions by ensuring the focus is on blame and mistrust towards said group or individual, thereby taking the heat off of them. The heat that they have, that they are responsible for, is the band-aids that they throw on real societal threatening issues rather than fixing the root causes. Their distract and divert tactics keep us from remembering that they are the ones at fault. Fear and hate trigger our primal survival instincts. And when this kicks in, human nature causes like a rapid, emotionally driven decision making process rather than a calm and rational thought process. This is especially true when the issue we're upset about and are now placing our misdirected blame on others has been compounded by a sense of urgency, which is another tactic. On top of that, to further get us going, they throw in some embellishments and misinformation to make the story sound even better or worse, depending. If the web that those in power have weaved aligns with one's beliefs, thoughts, or the way they want the story to go, it's very hard to get them to hear, much less believe any other scenario. In fact, I'm going to share with you an actual study I read about on Newsweek, done by marketing researchers and a professor at the University of California. Now, their research found that Republicans respond to political competition more aggressively. They have more drive to win the argument to be right, therefore more likely to believe and spread false information, particularly when there's a heightened polarization between parties. Now, this is just one specific study I'm referencing. There have been many others conducted with much the same results. And I want to point this out because it highlights something deeper than just politics. It shows how the need to be right can actually override the need to be truthful. When a group feels compelled to protect its identity at all costs, even at the expense of facts, it becomes much easier to spread misinformation. And that's not just a Republican problem, it's a human problem. But studies like this help us understand how strongly our desire to win or to belong can shape what we share, what we believe, and ultimately how divided we stay. Why is it so important to stand united? There are various moments in our history we can refer to when looking at just how powerful it can be when many Americans across many demographics come together for a cause. One of the most powerful, as well as the cause for one of the most widespread accounts of unity in our history, is directly after the attacks on 9/11. Americans from all walks of life put aside the hate and fear and confusion we carry for others and rallied together in support of victims, first responders, and the many grieving families. The whole nation seemingly gained a new perspective on just what is really important in life. A new perspective of viewing the petty differences between us as just that, petty. And the bigger picture was put on display all over the country. There was a huge influx of the desire to help others through volunteering with various organizations, as well as donating and even enlisting in the military. For those reasons, for a window of time in the days, weeks, months following September 11th, 2001, the USA lived up to its name, the United States of America. As a result, our nation and her citizens were stronger, more productive, and proved that overlooking our differences to unite for a greater cause can be done. Another prime example of America coming together is World War II. The attack on Pearl Harbor served as a catalyst for American unity. The war efforts extended beyond the military. Everyone got involved by rationing goods and holding various drives to collect goods, the war bonds, and taking on new roles, especially particularly in females that took on the roles in factories to fill in the gaps of the men being gone. There are other examples, including the moon landing and the signing of the Declaration of Independence, but I want to move on to how the media and politicians create echo chambers to keep us fighting each other instead of them. Echo chambers don't just create misinformation, they prevent growth. They discourage critical thinking and they make us easier to manipulate. Take social media. For example, if you watch or like a lot of conservative or liberal content, the algorithm will feed you more of that perspective while hiding opposing views, making you believe that everyone thinks the same way you do, which reinforces bias and division. Another example would be the partisan news networks. For example, Fox News focusing on immigration as a security crisis, while MSNBC frames it mainly as a humanitarian issue. The result of this is that viewers stay inside ideological bubbles, and they are rarely exposed to facts or narratives from the other side. Political campaign strategies. For example, a candidate sends fear driven immigration ads only to specific conservative leaning audiences, while sending social justice messages only to certain liberal segments. And the result of this is that each group is fed messaging that strengthens their pre existing emotions and keeps them engaged, as well as divided. There are offline echo chambers that happen in tight knit social or faith based groups. For example, a small town church community repeatedly and reinforcing that certain social issues like LGBTQ plus rights or abortion are morally wrong without outside perspectives. And this results in members rarely challenging these ideas, even when they are exposed to new information elsewhere. A lot of us fall into these echo chambers without even realizing it. At the end of the day, echo chambers strip us of our greatest power, our ability to connect, question, and unite. So ask yourself, when was the last time you really listened to someone you disagreed with? When did you challenge your own assumptions? Stepping out of the echo chamber might feel uncomfortable, but it is the first step towards genuine understanding and real change. So, if we ever want to break the cycle of division, we have to break free from the echoes first. We have been divided for so long, since inception, basically, as a country, that it's going to take a while. It's going to take a long time to stop this cycle of division, to stop the habits of dividing so easily. But there are steps we can take. Every one of us can take small steps in our own backyard to help close the division that's been tearing us apart. It might feel overwhelming, but it starts small. So we can start with conversations rather than confrontations. Lead with curiosity, not judgment, when speaking to someone whose views clash with yours. We can also show up for local events at town halls or school board meetings. And we can support community projects that focus on common ground, such as food drives, neighborhood cleanups, youth mentorship programs, because shared goals remind us that we have more in common than we think. We can practice small acts of empathy by buying from a business owned by someone of a different background. Help a neighbor, even if you know they vote differently. These small gestures will build trust and connection over time. And be willing to look at your own biases. Acknowledging and working on your own biases is the foundation for meaningful healing. Just remember, it doesn't have to start with a huge national movement. It starts at the dinner table or the PTA meeting. If each of us took one small step to see and support each other beyond our divisions, imagine what kind of effect we could begin to create. And going off of the examples that I gave us about when America has united, as I said, it shows us that it can be done. Be sure to join me next week. I want to thank you so much for being here with me today. Don't forget to leave some comments, drop your thoughts and suggestions, and I want to hear what resonates with you, what has not, and what if there's something that you would like to hear more of or that we have not covered. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. I appreciate all of you. See you next week at From Dirt We Grow.